Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to day 2 of Celtics practice ahead of Celtics Nets starting Sunday. Just, let me count it, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days away. Game 1 is going to take place just a couple miles from here at TD Garden. We're at Auerbach Center, where an early storyline emerged from this series with Bruce Brown, of all people. Not KD, not Kyrie Irving, Tatum, Brown. Bruce Brown sets the tone in this series, coming out of Cavaliers playing game the other night, saying that there's a vulnerability on the Celtics. You're going to be able to go at Daniel Theis. You're going to be able to go at Al Horford. And Kevin Durant, of course, immediately came out after that. You've all seen it by now. Says Brown was on a caffeine high. Nothing's going to be easy. And essentially looked furious that Brown put that out there for the Celtics to absorb as this series gets started here. Obviously, two teams that are looking at each other with a ton of trepidation, a ton of expectation for the challenge ahead in terms of stopping the two different stars on this team, but also ancillary pieces like Brown. Now let's talk about Brown. Boston native. This is a guy that got cheers in March when these two teams played, of course being a local guy out of Dorchester, and he's carved out a nice career for himself with the Nets. I look back on that trade they made to acquire him a couple of years ago, basically gave up nothing, second round pick, and they have found their mini small ball center type on offense. Nick Claxton struggles to play the pick and roll. That was something that was awkward between him and James Harden when he was there. Andre Drummond, a little bit of pick and roll with him, but he's more of a heavy set offensive rebounder, post up kind of center. And then LaMarcus Aldridge is going to pick and pop. So to give the Nets some pick and roll oomph, this guy who's in the low 6'2", 6'3" area has made himself a weapon for them. And this started last season, faded away through the middle portion of this season. I went to see Nets Bucks in Brooklyn in early January around the Celtics-Knicks game in that time frame at MSG. And he was on the bench. Part of the shock over how Steve Nash has managed this rotation this year was how Bruce Brown got lost in the shuffle. And he's going to be a real factor here. He gets to the middle of the floor, he can score, he can rebound, he can pass out of that short roll position, and he did it on the way to 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists over Cleveland in that play-in game. Since the deadline, which is effectively when the Nets have put this team in place, he's averaging close to 14 points a game, close to 6 rebounds a game, as well as over 3 assists per game on 53% shooting. So the Celtics know that this is something that they're going to have to manage, and beyond the trash talk that's getting started here between Brown and the Celtics, there's a real matchup, X's and O's factor that comes into play when it comes to stopping Brown. Here's what Ime Udoka said in terms of how they'll manage that short roll.
You mentioned, the way Bruce Brown's hurting some teams and drop, that short roll thing that he's doing there. What kind of defense do you think you're going to end up deploying a lot of the time to, slow them down?
Well, it depends what we want to, take away. And obviously Irving and Durant are the focal points there, but he impacts the game similar to what Draymond Green does when guys are keyed on Curry and Thompson. So we can go to some simple things as switching and taking away his roles. That's an easy one there. But matchup-wise, we'll figure out what we like best as far as who we want to start on him and take some of those things away, because he is a huge spark for that team. I think the energy he brings and kind of being the wild card X factor for them, besides the shooters and the rebounders, we can take that away if we'd like to.
So Daniel Theis also talked today. He got to react to actually being mentioned by name by Brown and said, effectively, we're going to go out there and prove him wrong. He smiled. He said he heard it. So did Jaylen Brown, who said, you don't respond. You just go out there and take action. So not much give and take between the Nets and Celtics right now. Celtics just absorbed this. Not much to say back. Ime Udoka had the more stern response yesterday in terms of those being two big guys, and nothing really changes here in terms of their effectiveness defensively. Still a top 10 team since Robert Williams went down. What Bruce Brown said initially was that you can go at those bigs. There's some space there to operate. So are they actually going to be able to do that? Brown gives them the ability to do so. Theis has looked into the scheme so far, what he's going to be facing off against. Lots of switches, as Ime said in that quote, and an off-ball role that I assume is going to be similar to Robert Williams and how he protects the lane. Here's what Theis had to say in terms of how the Celtics are going to secure Brown and how that factors into the Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant defensive plan that they have to stop those two.
We have to ask. Did you hear what Bruce Brown said?
Yeah, I did.
How did you take those comments?
I mean, he said what he said. So, I mean, for us, it's more we showed on the court. If he thinks the way he thinks, we're going to prove him wrong.
You said you're going to be ready for Bruce if he comes at you, doing the short roll things that he's doing right now, and just, you know, the way they're running their offense. How do you prepare for that?
I mean, they found a good spot, like when teams try to double team Kyrie and KD, like to find him like in the middle of the in the paint, like kind of like Golden State used Draymond with handles and then attacking like floaters and finding the bigs. So I think it's just like obviously Kyrie and KD get a lot of attention, but also we have a lot of great defenders, long wings that we can guard one-on-one. We don't have to go double team that many times or that quick in the game. So we take away his like ability to playing like in the middle of the zone, like when we trap the pick and rolls, or other teams that like Cleveland did. Cleveland gave up like 4 or 5 lobs, just Bruce Brown lobbing up to the rim. So I think defensively we have so many guys who can guard one-on-one. That's like what we're going to do. Take pride in its players. Like you can't just go double team from the first second. Like they expect it. Double team KD is not easy. Like he's a 7-footer, basically. So we're going to go one-on-one.
So I love it. This is what you love about this series. This is why you wanted it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be super entertaining. There's going to be a lot of moments like this one, I'd assume, between the two sides talking back and forth here. At Nets practice, Ben Simmons still no timeline on his return, just getting back into a greater conditioning program. Doesn't seem like he'll be good to go from game one, at least how the Nets are describing it, even though we talked about that yesterday out here. Robert Williams, no actual contact work. Ime clarified that here today. So he still seems far away. No expectation that he's going to play in this series. But are both sides playing coy about their returning stars being available in this series? Wouldn't be surprising at all. And then beyond that, Brown, who didn't clarify actually whether he is celebrating Ramadan, did essentially say that it's made a big impact on his life. Kyrie Irving, of course, in this series as well, practicing Ramadan. We talked about that on Dome Theory this week with Jaylen Brown, who covers the Nets. So no food, no water for both of them if Brown is indeed celebrating. Ahead of a 3:30 matchup, no food, no water, sun up till sundown. So it will factor the afternoon games in this series, including game one, if Irving and Brown are in the middle of their fast still. So that was interesting to hear from Brown today. A lot of interesting stuff. Like I said, this series, the tensions between the two fan bases, sometimes the two teams, although Theis among many saying that there's no real hard feelings with Irving here. And beyond that, the schematic push, give and take between these two teams, two elite scorers on both sides, both making it clear that this isn't a 2-on-2 matchup, and Bruce Brown is a guy you're going to have to contain, and shows why there's more ancillary pieces. Theis, Horford, Smart, Claxton, Drummond, who are going to swing this series beyond the two stars there. But all eyes will be on them Sunday when the series gets underway at 3:30. We'll have coverage of practice on Saturday ahead of that here back at Auerbach Center, as well as Game 1 live at TD Garden. We're brought to you by Calm. Of course, our great friends at Calm keep us relaxed. Jaylen Brown was talking today about the meditations, the breathing, and the calmer team being the one that has the advantage, the calmer players having the advantage going into a playoff game when you're all ramped up. He said he's had trouble sleeping. I'd recommend Calm. The rain, the thunder, bedtime stories, anything you can imagine, it's over there if you get the premium subscription, and we're giving you 40% off to do that. Calm.com/Garden, 40% off a premium subscription. Love them. Been using it for a year now. They've been good friends of the Garden Report for a year, so if you love the Garden Report, go show Calm some love. It's as easy as downloading it on your phone, typing in the promo code, and CLNS Media is going to continue to cover the NBA playoffs as they get started here this weekend. Playing games on Friday, Celtics Nets on Sunday, other series getting underway on Saturday. I'm Bobby Manning, CLNS Media, Auerbach Center.